Today, we're going to talk about family, finances, and more. Welcome into today's show. I'm your host, Josh. And as always, thank you for joining in today's live show. And just to share things as to why I've actually created this entire episode is because I'm actually going to be a speaker on Sydney's Personal Finance Summit. So, actually, over here, I'm tasked with answering this question, managing your finances as a household. I was thinking, how else to prepare for it than to really pick up real actual questions from you listening in. And as always, leave them in the comment sections. I'll be keen to pick them up for you. I've already prepared some questions just to get things rolling a bit. And questions, they sometimes take a while to, really fully answer them because sometimes the financial questions are very deep and not everyone can be just answered with a stroke to solve things. Sometimes it's multifaceted. And to start things with, I've actually prepared this, which is actually not a couple's finance question yet, just to get things rolling. Because everybody listening in, you belong to a different age group. Some of you are going to graduate or have just started work, where some of you have already started building families, where some of you are already, in a later stage in life, closer to retirement and stuff. So hopefully I will be able to cover a wide spectrum. And as always, if you have some wisdom to share with younger audiences, also feel free to leave them in the comment sections. I'll pull up for each and everyone to see. So again, thank you for signing in, everybody. Be the first to leave a comment, and let's kick things started with this. This is actually a question for someone who is going to graduate only with $50,000, thinking of whether to buy investments or insurance, which is also a very similar question to one I saw before. Someone who is age of 20 with 60,000 who has built it through part-time income. What to do? At this phase in life, things are very simple, correct? You live for yourself. A lot of ways, your parents are still around to provide financially. And I actually like the second part a lot more. Build up that money through part-time work. That's why I've put this in for everybody to see. If you are young working it out, go and see more things, see more industries, go and work part-time. You broaden your perspective a lot more. And you always have that confidence to stand on your 2 feet once you've done part-time work rather than rely on your parents for income and savings. The first question seems to be someone who has actually been given that 50,000, maybe through ang paos, right, collected over the years. So that part, to answer that, I think the simplest answer is you need, yes, emergency cash. That's a standard thing. But I would like to twist it a little bit. I think at that age, there is no worry if you invest wrongly, or there's no even any urgency to buy insurance, because insurance is there to protect your potential income. You haven't really actualized income yet. I'd much rather someone who is just going to graduate or is just fresh at work to really think about investing to learning. Go for courses, spend them correctly, upgrade yourself, go for skills that could help you in your career and stuff. I think these are better investments. And as always, dabble your feet into the financial markets. That gives you a real head start rather than you follow a template of, you should buy this bond, or this Singapore savings bond and stuff. No need. Learn on investments. Start with a portion of what you have, and even if you make mistakes, things are not going to be too crucial also. So that's what I really like for someone younger. For myself, when I was in my 20s, early 20s, I actually did a lot of trading and stuff. I realized that had actually no real impact to my financial freedom journey, because you have gains and you have losses. The real thing that I've been doing for the last 10 years is dividend investing, growing and compounding things. But it always takes making mistakes. I've also shared on the channel that I've actually started an F&B business before, and that was some money loss. But as always, when you fail early, you have a lot of time to recover. So there's no best answer what you should invest. There's no real problem to start things with, at that age, no consequence. But when you move to late 20s or even early 30s, that's where you start to build families, correct? Which rounds to our first question. Financial tips for a pretty recent newlywed couple. As always, if you have a point of view, also leave in the comments. I'll be pulling up for everyone to discuss a bit further. What are financial areas to be careful of? This couple asking the question is getting a house in 3 years and planning to have a kid in 1 to 2 years. If I'm not wrong, getting a house in 3 years must be a BTO flat, correct? Then the first thing I'm thinking of is, in these 3 years, because they are married already, are they going to rent the place? Because these days, if you rent a place, it's not cheap already. It's at least $2,500. And if you rent for 1 year, 2,500 times 12, that's 30,000. If you rent for 3 years, you're going to burn a lot of cash. No point doing that. I understand the personal space is important. If you're renting for a year before your house is ready, then that's the different story. But 3 years, I'm quite sure that this couple is going to bunk in with the parents, which also means that for a newlywed staying with parents, there isn't a lot of expenses. Parents are still footing the bills. Parents are still making all the necessary accommodation to a newlywed. That's how I imagine. So there is still not a lot of learning in terms of managing a family's finance. And again, kid is not on board yet, so there's no real expense out. It's all personal expenses. Fair enough. Then I have this to say. At this stage, you have to save a lot. If you're serious about kid and house coming up soon, you have to save up a lot because there's no household expenses you are shouldering. There's no kids. The 50-30-20 rule, whereby 20% is your savings, forget about that. That is not urgent enough. You need to save 50% of your income, which means if your take-home pay is $4,000, go ahead and save $2,000. That urgent. Why do I say so? Because if you save out $2,000, your spouse save out $2,000, that's $4,000. 1 year, that's $48,000. You only have 3 years golden saving period. I would strongly suggest a lot of urgency. Tell your other half, hey, our house is coming. Can we look at our expenses? Be very, very prudent. Be very, very stingy already. Because in a later few years, you're not going to have a lot of chance to really have too much of savings unless your income explodes upwards. Which means also forget about the expensive birthday dining. Forget about impressing each other with diamond rings and stuff too much. I actually think back on the journey. I realized the best spending is to go for backpack holidays. If you're newlywed, the only thing don't save is go for a great backpack holiday, South America, Europe. Go and fulfill the dream. Because again, once you have a kid, you can't forget about that already. Nowadays, when I buy plane tickets, it's 4 already, so that expensive. Now it's just husband and wife. Go ahead, spend on travel, go backpacking and stuff, get a life experience. Because once you have a kid, you are kind of settled down. And again, aim for 50% savings. If you don't have that, then question each other. Hey, we need to be very, very urgent. At least I listen to this show and I understand that this is the golden saving period. Then when it comes to maybe insurance, one thing you can spend on is maybe whole life plans that are limited premium. I think that's cool. Simply because if you can complete in the next 5 years, kid not fully on board yet, correct? House still not a big burden. If you can compress protection in 5 years, I think great. Then you don't have that. You have a permanent level there already. On the other hand, you don't need too much of insurance already because there is no liabilities on board. You add on a term plan in future. So maybe that's a different perspective on insurance that I can share. But again, insurance part has to come into the picture, especially once you start to merge finances together, start to have families and liabilities with a home on board. Once the mortgage is on board, you need to take term insurance like something that covers you for 25 years. That's just to match mortgage costs. As always, if you have questions, leave in the comment sections. But I think the first take that I have for this is to really save very urgently. Keep track of all expenses. Be ready to challenge each other to really compress expenses. On the other hand, I've also seen before young couples getting saddled with endowment plans, 25-year endowment plans for retirement. Then that kind of spending on insurance maybe not the best approach. Whole life plans compressed, that's permanent protection. But endowment plans, 25 years, you haven't even got to the next stage in life, how to plan for retirement. And 25 years commitment, that's where it really shackles your finances quite a bit. So that's something to be aware of. Don't spend on endowment plans that are 25 years and then you have to keep paying premiums. And you have a new house, potentially kids coming on board. Another interesting question that can lead off from that is actually, how much should one save when getting ready to purchase a home? I don't know if you're watching this right now, you're waiting for a home also or not. And the question is further. I know this question is vague, but I want to get realistic, reasonable gauge. Getting my 5-room flat in 2 years' time. Again, 2 years' time, that probably is HDB BTO, not a resale, because resale is a complete transaction in 6 months. I've actually shared on the main channel, I've sold off my 3-room HDB flat. That was my first marital home. It's been rented out. Now I'm staying in the private place. But that was my journey. And and using that, maybe I can think of is what is a reasonable gauge? Because if you see, right, nowadays, the HDB loan and bank loan is quite clear-cut already. It's a no-brainer to go for HDB loan, 2.6%. Bank loans right now, floating is 4+%. Fixed is 3.75 and above already. Which means it's a no-brainer if you can qualify for the HDB loan. Go for that. You're definitely better off. And then the question should revolve around how fast you can pay down. Are you investing your CPF ordinary account? If not, you might want to pay down because 2.6% and 2.5%. So that's something to consider also a bit further. But that also says when you are looking to purchase a home, if the down payment is 15%, 5-room flat, BTO might be 500,000, 15%, 75,000 from two couples. I usually don't see that as a problem. So I'd like to suggest if both of you all have been working with this question, you realize that with grants coming in also and CPF, your OAs for both, there shouldn't be any problem with the down payment. The hard part comes with renovation. I think that's a cash expense that will come with it. Then also, maybe not to jump the gun too much is to really think about house because renovation, how much you should spend. You should also think, are you going to stay in the house for a super long time? When I ask this question to private clients who are a bit younger, just started the house and stuff, they are not too sure. That's why I also advocate if you can think 2 steps ahead. Okay, you may be upgrading, then you shouldn't spend too much on renovation. You should aim to repay that loan as soon as possible. Because again, when you sell, every portion goes back to your OA, you funnel towards your new home. So no shame in paying down the home loan early. So that part of thinking 2 steps ahead will help you in your financial journey. But again, the realistic gauge, I don't think it's a problem actually for couples who are both working. Unless one is not working or only part-time, then there is a stretch. Then I would like to bring up that maybe that 335 formula, whereby your amount that you have saved up for the house should be at least 30% of the down payment, which means 500,000 house, you should already have 150,000, which has buffers for stamp duties and stuff. But that also includes CPF and cash. Then that is a very comfortable amount. So look to your quantum that you're committed to and then work backwards, because everybody's house purchase price is different. But in most cases for a BTO, HDB, I think from previous episodes we've shared before, the average that most couples are paying is about 4 times of combined annual income only, which means a 500,000 flat, the average income of couples who are buying it is about 125,000 in combination. So you get that? So there's some sensing as well. You can benchmark with industry. So you haven't seen the first comment, be the first to leave and share your point of view also. Let's move on to renovations. And another one which I picked up, what are areas to cut back? Because this coincides with just now's question also. What you should prepare in terms of down payment should also include renovation. And to answer this question is what areas to cut down, you need to really think through whether you can afford that renovation cost. If you are going into renovation loans, then you probably are overspending. If not, then you really may not need to cut down that much. On the ground, I hear most spend about 50 to 100,000. That should be pretty accurate still. But as to what regrets to share, I think for myself, I spent about 58,000 for the renovation here. I think the false ceiling might be one that I regret. I should have removed the false ceiling for my kids' room. Maybe that will create more space. We didn't do that. I think on hindsight, maybe that's something to reconsider. But usually, most of what I've seen in terms of regrets come from overspending in carpentry and stuff. Again, it takes research and it really is personalized. So it's hard to say what kind of personal regrets. But as always, do not go into renovation loans. I think once you get there, which means you are not saving well or you have overspent on the renovation budget. When you bring to a contractor, you realize, hey, my budget is 50,000. If you review it to them, you realize that the final bill would always be above that, and then you'll be squeezing out more than what you expected. So I usually don't like to tell the final budget that I have too much, as well as to really be very aware that in all aspects, they'll suggest things that are fancy, that matches the dream, and then we tend to overspend. Originally thought of 50,000, then in the end, final bill was 60-something or 70,000. I think it's very common. So be very careful in how you negotiate with contractors. Let's move on to yet more questions regarding houses. This one asks the question, what age do you plan to pay off your housing loan? Do you make sure your home loans are fully paid before retirement? Example 50. Money Sense advocates reducing paying off loan before retirement age. How many of you guys agree with that? If you do, I'm also on board. You should be able to pay off. May not need to pay off straight away, but you should have the ability to pay off, which means you have it already in the bank account or investment assets. Then that's cool. Because when it comes to retirement planning, right, you are only able to consume monies above what you need to set aside for the house. Fair? Which means your home, you should be able to fully pay. Then that portfolio that you have, you can consume it down or milk out dividends from it. Then you're ready to calculate how much you can consume for retirement. Which means also, at what age do you plan to pay off your housing loan? Most bank loans are until 65. That's when you get the highest loan to valuation. But I'm also fully on board with this, aiming for 50 and before that. Why do I think so? It's quite easy. Because when we look at statistics, most people pick in terms of their career earnings in early 40s, which means also after 50s, there could be health reasons, there could be retrenchment, there could be a lot of other factors that cause you to drop in terms of your income. And therefore, if you still have the home loan which you need to pay until 65, there could be things that forces you to downgrade that's against your will. Then that's not too cool. So if we were to calculate how much, you follow that 335 property ownership formula, which I mentioned before on this show, you realize you can definitely afford this payment even before 50. So I do suggest pay off the home loan first or have amounts ready. Then you can get ready to calculate how much you can spend for retirement. Then the other thing is, if you pay off a home loan, I also don't know if you have this understanding. For HDB flats, you pay off the home loan, you cannot refinance it really. But for private properties, you realize that you can actually fully pay off the home loan, especially interest cost right now at 4% thereabouts. You can actually fully pay it off, and if interest rates go down, you can bring to a bank again to refinance and take out term equity, which means you fully pay off the $1 million condo. Then you go to the bank again, you can take out 75%, assuming the pay can sustain, even after you fully paid off. So you understand the difference? For HDB flats, you cannot go and refinance it once you fully paid off. For private properties, you can fully pay off when interest costs are high, and then you want that cash out again. You can go to the bank and use it as collateral, taking out term equity loan. I've actually a tutorial on the main channel. You can check out why I've actually borrowed $150,000 for my own private property. So these are differences. But always the ability to pay off at 50 and before is something I think is pretty important for financial freedom journey. Of course, it starts with not taking a loan that's too big. If not, both couples can't pay off. And along the way, you realize that as income increases, kids come about, savings ratio drop. That's why relates to the first question. Now is the urgent time to save up a lot of money. Once you have families running, the expenses start to inflate a lot. Now let's move on to questions on life insurance. Should I surrender my life insurance? Because personal finance questions, was correct? Oh, and actually, I want to share this before we get to life insurance. This one, right, is on Joshua Tan. I actually saw it. Josh Tan. This is an actor actually. Regarding houses, so just a rounding point for houses. He's actually bought a place, if I'm not wrong, from comment sections in Reflections. So a pretty cool place. And I'm also curious how much he actually spent. But there are actually content out there that shows celebrities, homes and stuff. I think it might be something that you will be curious about if you're looking for a house. But let's go back to the question on insurance, because family finance, correct? Problematic finance questions. When both have insurance portfolios coming together, hey, what should they commit to, or how is the philosophy? If one is more savvy, then that person can actually influence the other half on what to keep and what to increase. I want to share some perspective on life insurance, just in case both of you all work with different advisors. This one asks the question, should I surrender my life insurance? Parents bought it since 2007. Some insured 100,000 and I'm paying 2,000 premium for it. Have to pay until 55. Not confident to pay a premium of 2,000 plus per year. Actually, not confident to pay 2,000. That's a bit problematic because 2,000 is not a lot already. But also, since the parents bought it, I don't know if you have also legacy plans that you've bought, or you're buying one for your young child. Nowadays, you can compress premium to 10 years and shorter. So I do suggest it. So you pass on a policy that's fully paid. If not, you pass on a policy that still requires premium to your children, then they have this kind of questions. But my parents actually passed me something, and I actually surrendered that. I can share with you. Not personal financial advice, but also that one was paid for lifetime. And I think some of the things that we need to take note of, since parents pay for it, also notify them that I'll be surrendering, or if not, return that capital back. Because whole life plans, there's a capital portion. Some older plans, like this one over here since 2007, they have a tier also. 20 years, there's slightly more surrender value. 25 years, slightly more surrender value. Be a bit more strategic. And as always, look for a qualified advisor. But 100,000 sum assured is definitely not enough nowadays. Because for compensating for loss of income, critical illness, for example, 100,000, that's unless the person is earning 25,000 a year only. That's 4 years of annual income. If not, this sum assured is definitely way too little. But also, since pay to 55 is not the end of the world, I'm not too sure if that's a good idea to surrender that or not. Again, if you're watching this on recorded stream, leave your questions and comments regarding houses, how should couples split finances, what are your personal problems in that aspect, as well as any interest related questions or point of views that you would like some answers to, because all this funnels towards personal finance, correct? So, and just like I said, I'll be on the speaking panel for Silly, and I'll be actually explaining how couples should split their finances. I have this to end things with, since you start with me to the end. When you build finances together as a couple, I strongly advocate have a dream together, because money's when you put one in each account, are you all working together with a joint goal? I always like this. A dream you dream alone is only a dream, but a dream you dream together is reality. If you can work with your other half, plan out how you want to buy a house in your preferred neighborhood for your kid and stuff, or where you want to retire together, then that is a dream to communicate. A lot of times, money issues start with poor communication or misunderstanding or reluctance to change certain habits. They are multifaceted because everybody grows up with a different upbringing, correct? But along the way, we need to shape the dream together so that retirement is together, raising kids together, the funnel of money goes towards a similar pot, a joint account, hopefully, that satisfies both needs, and then both are happy to stay the journey and work out something that's fruitful. As always, leave your questions in the comment sections. If you're viewing this on record stream, thank you for watching to the end, and I hope I've answered some valuable questions for you. If you're joining Sydney Festival, look for me, and I'll see you there too. Take care as always. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.